Dear respected teacher, dear sisters, dear brothers of the planet Earth, welcome to Plum Village. We're really excited to have all of you here. This is the third annual Wake Up Earth retreat. And I don't know what date it is. Is it the 11th or the 12th? It's someday on planet Earth. Last night I went for a walk as the sun was setting. And this past week you can see 4 planets at sunset. You see Venus coming down just after the sun. And then Jupiter, very bright. And then a little bit more dim Saturn. And then just coming up on the horizon, Mars. Very bright and red. And I reflected on how we are here in this womb of the atmosphere of Mother Earth, with its blue sky in the day and clouds, and how we can easily forget that we're standing on the side of a giant sphere that is rotating. And in that moment when I saw the 4 planets like that, and I realized I'm standing on this sphere looking out into space, into the solar system. And if I'm not careful, then I can feel lonely. Not just me as one human being, but as the human flowering on this planet. It can feel quite cold. And I can ask, what am I doing here? Why am I here? But I didn't ask those questions. I just allowed the wonder of this moment to penetrate deeply. I enjoyed coming back to my breath. And not thinking about anything. Just purely enjoying this pristine moment of standing on the sphere of the earth, looking out over the planets. I imagine Jupiter is far away and Saturn is even farther away. But somehow I felt that I saw Venus and Mars over there, and I felt, wow, those are neighbors. It's like, growing up and you feel somehow, even though you don't see your neighbors every day, but they're there and you feel, okay, that's my home. That's where I live. But Jupiter and Saturn, they're way over there. That's where I only go on vacation, far away. And I look deeply into what we are doing here, what we are up to on the planet Earth. And using the teaching of our teacher, Thai, I'm careful to see that I am the earth. That I am not separate from the earth. It may be that one day our descendants, or even us, we are living on another planet. It sounds very strange, difficult to imagine. And I think how harsh it must be to be outside of the womb of Mother Earth that has sustained us for hundreds of millions of years, that has given us life, that has helped us to grow, to change with her, to be joyful, to be sad, to be angry, to be mindful. And I saw that, well, first of all, there's no me separate from the earth and the universe. And also, yet somehow there is this experience of awareness. We are sitting here, and I am aware of all these beautiful faces in front of me, like flowers in the garden of humanity. And you are seated there, and you're also surrounded by the community. You're maybe looking here, you're looking at a human being. And so it seems very clear there's this body, there's this other body. But letting go of my idea of myself, me, and just being aware. There is this awareness of the universe towards itself. When the thinking calms down, there's only this awareness of itself. A self-awareness of the universe. And we are manifesting that awareness. When I see like that, I feel very free. I don't feel worried or anxious about this body anymore. There's no idea that this awareness is separate from any other awareness. And that is freedom. And we come together here in Plum Village to manifest that freedom together, to create conditions for each other to be free and truly happy. That is our main career. That is what we are here to do. And that doesn't mean that this week you will always be happy. It doesn't mean that you won't feel jealous. You won't feel fear or anxiety. But with the support of the community, the support of this center around us, then the fear becomes a little bit less. Maybe the anger can be a little bit less strong. Although sometimes, just like when you go into a quiet room and you hear a very soft sound, even the ticking of the clock, it can become very loud. So sometimes here in the practice center, when our anger comes up, it seems so much stronger, so much bigger than when we are outside in the world. It's because around us things have quieted down. The silence helps us to hear more deeply what is already there. So these emotions, this anger, fear, jealousy, maybe the things that either we feel we can't possibly have or we feel we want to avoid, they become very clear, very present. And because we feel held by the community, we feel held by our sitting meditation, walking meditation, eating meditation, noble silence in the morning, I wish for you that you no longer feed that habit of avoiding these difficult emotions. I wish that you benefit from this collective energy of mindfulness that is being generated by the community, that is being offered in every moment, to really let go of your fear and allow these emotions your full attention, to have your full attention. That's my deep wish. If you can do that, then I will feel happy, and I feel that your time is well spent here in Plum Village. So this morning I will share a little bit, just briefly, about the basic practices of Plum Village that we can use to help us to look at our difficult emotions and transform them, so that throughout your week here, we can fully enjoy our time and fully benefit from what is available. So we can start by listening to the sound of a bell, and just be aware of your body, and bring your mind back to your breathing. Every time you notice that thinking appears, just gently guide your mind, guide your attention back to your in-breath and your out-breath, and let the sound of the bell penetrate deeply into every cell in your body. In Plum Village, we have two central practices that go together, like we say, like the wings of a bird. So the practices of stopping looking deeply. Stopping means when we hear the sound of the bell, we not only stop whatever we're doing with our body, but we also learn to stop our thinking, even if just for a second. It doesn't mean we suppress our thinking, but we just guide our attention back to our breathing. When we don't attend to our thinking, it ceases to manifest. Thinking requires attention to manifest. So if we bring our attention back to our breath, then we have removed a necessary condition for thinking to be possible. If you ever try to suppress your thinking, it doesn't work very well. The more you try to push it down, the more it seems to push its way back up and spill through all the holes. But what we learn here is to recognize how all things manifest because of nutriment, because there's some kind of nourishment. And if we understand that nourishment, then we're able to remove a condition that creates, that allows another thing to manifest. So our thinking requires our attention. And if we remove the attention, if we bring it just to the visceral experience of breathing in and breathing out, and we maintain that attention over time, then our thinking calms down, because it doesn't have the nutriment anymore of our attention. And if there's one thing that is valuable and precious and within our control, it is our attention. Maybe you don't have a lot of money, maybe you don't have a lot of power, but you always are able to decide in any moment where you put your attention. And that is the key to the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is when we attend to what is going on here in the present moment. So if thinking is happening, then we are aware that thinking is happening. If we are aware that breathing is happening, then we can bring all of our attention to the breathing. Like right now, I'm aware I'm standing. I'm aware of the contact my feet make with the earth. I'm aware of my shoulders, aware of my breathing, aware of speaking. So that is the field of what is going on in the present moment. Usually we get lost in our thinking about the past. We have emotions like sadness, or maybe anger, maybe joy, or happiness. And those emotions can be nutriment for our thinking. And the thinking can also be a nutriment for our emotions. So there's a kind of cycle of nutriment. Usually it goes like that. Thinking that feeds the emotion feeds the thinking feeds the emotion, and it goes like that over and over, around and around. And that's why we don't feel very free, because we feel we're stuck in this cycle of thinking, feeding emotion, feeding the thinking. So the stopping is what helps us to become free of this cycle. If you have a fire and you remove the firewood one piece at a time, they are no longer close enough and the heat is not sufficient enough for the flame to manifest. So the same thing is true with our thinking and our emotions. If we learn to remove our attention from our thinking, then the nourishment for the emotion is no longer there. So when we have a strong emotion like anger or sadness, despair, the first thing to do is, like when we listen to the bell, is to stop and come back to our breathing. Stop whatever we're doing, which is usually our thinking that's nourishing the sadness, the despair. It's just coming over and over. In this day and time, we need to understand this, because despair it can spread like a wildfire through the forest. If the forest wood is dry, and there's a lot of dry wood now in the world, then the sadness can spread very quickly. But it is within our power to change the situation by shifting our attention. So first we stop and we bring our attention back to our breathing. That is the basis of the practice here in Plum Village. So this morning we enjoyed a guided meditation on coming back to the breathing, following the breath, and then also being aware of our body, the whole body, relaxing the body. These are the first 4 steps of what we call mindfulness of breathing. So when we practice stopping, first we practice to come back to our breathing. So awareness of the in and out breath. In and out breath. And then the thinking is no longer creating the nutriment for our emotion. And then to develop concentration, we can follow the whole length of our in-breath and follow the whole length of our out-breath. Concentration doesn't mean you go like this and try to force yourself to concentrate. It's not like that. Here in Plum Village, concentration means that we maintain our awareness over time. So if we follow the in-breath, we train ourselves to be concentrated. Breathing in, I'm aware of the whole length of my in-breath. So as the breath comes in and my lungs fill with air, I maintain awareness during the whole time. And then breathing out, the same. My belly going down, my lungs expelling the air. Maybe you like to put your hand on your belly and just practice following your in and out breath for a moment. And anytime you notice your attention shifts to your thinking, just smile and gently bring 100% of your attention to the sensation of the in-breath and the out-breath, and follow the breath as it comes in. Follow the breath as it comes out. Did anybody have any thinking coming up? It's okay. It's normal. So the thing is, when we practice to follow our in-breath, it's the second step, follow the breath. Is that we train ourselves to continually come back. We go off to our thinking and then we come back. The idea is not to get rid of our thinking. Thinking is just it's like the clouds. It's a natural phenomena. It's part of who we are. So we don't want to get rid of our thinking. But we have to understand why the thinking manifests. What is the nutriment? Because our tendency is to grasp onto our thinking. The thinking is fine, but we try to grab it and think that that is me. It is mine. It is myself. When somebody says that we are wonderful, that we're intelligent, that we're beautiful, then we really like that, what they say, and we like that thought, and we want to keep it for ourselves. And then when somebody says that we are obnoxious, boring, irritating, and then we reserve that for other people, right? That's not keep that far away from me, my idea of me. So we push it away. So this is the way we operate in our mind. There are thoughts that we like about ourselves, about what we want to do with our time, and we want those things, so we pull them closer. We're always doing like this. And then the other things, we're pushing them away. Get away from me. That has nothing to do with me. I'm not irritating. I'm not boring. I'm not obnoxious. And so the thinking is not the problem. It is our relationship with our thinking that causes us a lot of suffering. Mindfulness allows us to look at all this happening without any judgment. We just see it. Just like the clouds passing through the sky. We don't try to reject them. We also don't try to grasp onto them and hold it. We see that thoughts are like the air, like a cloud. You cannot grasp it. No matter, even if you are next to the cloud, even if you are in the cloud, you cannot do anything to grasp onto it and hold it. And our thinking is the same nature. And because we cannot grasp onto it, so we try to feed ourselves with nutriment so that the kind of thoughts we like keep reappearing over and over and over again. So we go to watch the television, or we go to that website and we click, or we go onto Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And so it's doom, doom, doom. We press like. It gives us a kind of dopamine rush. Because we see that even in that happiness, that joy we experience from a little bit of dopamine, pressing like. Somebody who looked at our picture and, oh, they liked my picture. They like what I'm doing. I'm important. Yeah, it's okay. That's a little child in us who wants our mom and dad to say, oh, Mommy, look what I did. Daddy, look what I did. There's nothing bad about it. It's just that we condition ourselves over and over. Okay, and then more pictures on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I don't even know what this is now. And so we want to replicate that emotion. But we notice that each time there's a little bit less, maybe not so much happiness. And then maybe sadness. Maybe we start to see other people and they're doing things that are far more interesting, and they seem to have far more friends than we do. And we feel lonely, we feel hurt, and we think, where is my happiness? Where did you go? And even that, we keep going after that thought, but there's no more happiness. Maybe we enjoyed being with friends, And we went to party together, and we went drinking, and we smoked weed, and all the things that I've done. And then we think, well, next weekend, but our friends are not there, but the beer is there. Oh, maybe if I can find that happiness. Or the weed is there. Maybe if I smoke just one more joint, I'll really touch that happiness. So this is how we condition ourselves. But somehow we don't find it. Maybe we get some pleasure, but it disappears. And so here we learn to see these things as impermanent. That is their nature. There are pleasant emotions, they come and they pass, and they go away. There are painful emotions, they come and they stay for a time, and then they go away. And that is actually the nature of all things, the nature of impermanence. So practicing stopping, we actually see that happening. If we are running all the time, after our pleasures, after our because of our job, because running away from our fears, we don't have a chance to see that. We start to think that those things are permanent. You can listen to a sound of the bell and the sound of the baby crying and enjoy the impermanent nature. We can contemplate the orchid, and we see that now it shares its beauty, the purple color, and maybe we enjoy it so much that we want to have it all the time. So we just make one out of plastic. But somehow it's not quite as beautiful. There's something... and then one day we imagine that plastic orchid on the bottom of an ocean and a fish trying to eat it. That is a kind of metaphor of our mind. We see something beautiful, and rather than just enjoy it in the present moment, we want to keep it forever. We want to plastify it. And in doing so, we create suffering for ourselves and for others. Maybe for the fish and the birds who try to eat the plastic flower. So we need to look in our lives in what ways we are trying to plastify our emotions. Try to freeze them in time and have them forever. And instead learn to accept that things are impermanent, that this retreat is impermanent. We only have a week together, so make good use of your time. Please practice stopping, because we won't always have such good conditions to be able to generate joy, to generate happiness. When we practice stopping, we can learn to look deeply. In fact, the two of them go together. Right away when we stop, we can see more clearly what is going on in our mind. We can look deeply to see the nutriment, to see how our thinking is continuing to feed our emotion. So we have the practice of walking meditation. This morning we enjoyed it. In Plum Village we practice to coordinate our steps with our breathing. So when I breathe in, I might take 2 or 3 steps. And then breathing out, I take maybe 3 or 4 steps. In, out. In, out. And we arrive with each step. We're fully present in our body. We're not thinking about where we're going or worrying about the past. We're just there with each step, connecting with Mother Earth. This is the seal of our non-separation from the earth. Each step, the contact our foot makes with the earth. Mother Earth is always there for us, under our feet. She's supporting us. But are we there for her? Are we really there for her? That is the question. And that depends on our practice of coming back to ourselves, coming back to our breath, coming back to our body. When we practice eating meditation, it's also a sitting meditation. We eat sitting down, and we have our food in front of us, and we can enjoy the feast of colors even before we begin eating. Rather than just grabbing our food and starting to shovel it in, we can practice stopping. Just look at the food. Wow. And then you can look deeply in the food. You can see that in that piece of broccoli there is the sun. In that carrot there is rain. In that piece of rice, in the grain of rice, there is the earth. There's also the farmer, the trucker who drove the food here. There are all the ancient ancestors who cultivated this wild plant to make it into the grain of rice that we can be nourished by today. And there are the wonderful cooks. We have very good cooks this week for the wake-up retreat. So they help us to enjoy more deeply our food. So the least we can offer is our practice of stopping and looking deeply at the food. In our center in New York State, in the United States, they are well known for a big article in the food section of the New York Times. Mindful eating. It's a new fad. Go to this place and the food is amazing. But it's not the food that's amazing. The food is the food. It's also good food. But it's how we eat it. People are like, wow, the taste, oh my gosh. So many flavors I didn't recognize. And it's similar with our mind. So the practice of looking deeply into the food helps us to look deeply into our own mind and see that it's never boring. Usually we feel there's more exciting things happening somewhere else, like on the television or in the movie theater or on the internet. And so we go outside. But when you actually start to look inside yourself, you see that it's much more interesting. It's fascinating. When you start to see this process, you start to see how this whole myriad of human emotions that are within each one of us more than 51 kinds of feelings. And we see how we nourish them, how they manifest, how they become our thinking, how they feed our thinking. It becomes very interesting. So this looking deeply is a good replacement for television. It's a good replacement for the internet. In fact, it's the ancient internet. It's the internet that connects us in the web of life with our ancestors. Our ancestors that look something like a fish. Our ancestors that look something like a reptile. Our ancestors that look something like a monkey. All of those emotions have been cultivated and evolved over millions of years. So why do we run away from them? That's an invitation to practice looking at them directly. So my deep wish for you in this retreat, like I shared already, is that we no longer fear our emotions. Usually we have all kinds of emotions that bring up feelings of terror, like anger, despair, loneliness. And we think, well, he told me to look at them, but I can't handle that, man. That's too difficult. And that's okay. You can say that. Because what we're going to give you are some ways of being with these emotions that don't bring up also fear, that allow you to be with the despair, just like the crying baby. We practice to embrace the emotion so we understand it. We don't just throw the baby out the window when it's crying, right? Most of us would never ever think about doing that. But that is what we do with our emotions every day. Every day we're doing that. If we're honest with ourselves, we don't want to look at despair, sadness. We don't want to look at anger. And so instead we just practice avoiding the kind of situations that bring up those emotions. And so we end up living our lives in fear. Fear of being in situations that will touch difficult emotions like anger and jealousy and despair. And so we are not truly free. Our root teacher, the Buddha, was a very free human being. He didn't fear his emotions any longer. He didn't fear anger or despair because he knew how to take care of his anger. He knew how to take care of his despair. Sometimes he would be walking for his alms food alone in the forest, in areas with lots of robbers and thieves. So he practiced to take care of his fear. He doesn't know if he'll be killed or robbed. We say the greatest gift one can give to another is the gift of non-fear, because it is actually the gift of freedom. Once we learn to take care of our fear, then we can be a truly free person. And so this practice of being aware of the breath, following the breath, being aware of the body and calming the body, this is our support. This is how we establish ourselves here in the present moment. We stop, by bringing our attention to the breath and then following the breath. It's like when you have, when you make your own apple juice. You squeeze the juice from the apple. And if you leave it sitting on the table, then the pulp from the apple eventually will calm down. And so our mind is in the same way. It will go down to the bottom of the glass, and then you can see more clearly what's happening. So allow yourselves this week to be like that glass of apple juice. Just allow yourself, by coming back to your breath, following the breath, to allow the clarity in your mind, the natural clarity, to manifest. And then it's very easy to look deeply. You don't have to make any effort. You see right away. Just like in a lake that is clear, you can see the bottom without any effort. Looking deeply doesn't require an effort. It just requires us to look. That's all. When our mind is calm. So this creates a foundation for a calm mind. And when our mind is calm, we're capable of generating joy. Generating a feeling of joy. Not with a glass of beer, not with a joint, not with checking Facebook or Instagram. Within yourself, generating joy. For me, when I first discovered mindfulness, this is what gave me the key to freedom. The first time I sat, followed my breath, and was able to generate joy. At that time I had a lot of sadness. I was a young man with a lot of despair. But there was this glimmer of joy that manifests, like a small flame. And with the following my breath, being aware of my body, I learned how to grow that joy. So it became brighter and brighter, stronger and stronger, so it would fill my whole body. I learned how to find places where there are people who help me to bring about those kind of conditions. Brothers and sisters who help me to generate that flame of joy and happiness so that it becomes full happiness. Say, generating happiness. Joy can be ephemeral. But when we learn well to cultivate joy, there's the possibility of generating happiness. We say joy is like a man who is walking, when walking through the desert, who sees an oasis, a well. So immediately he feels an upwelling of joy, that his thirst will be relieved. And happiness is when he actually arrives at the water and he puts his hand down and he drinks the water. So joy indicates the way for us. Maybe someone you met, maybe something you read, that gave you some joy, and that's why you're here in Plum Village. Now we want you to drink. It's time to drink the water. So please enjoy your stay here. Enjoy your mindful eating, mindful walking. Enjoy the collective energy of practice. Whether we're walking or eating, we practice to do it together. This morning we were walking a little bit spread out, but with a little bit of practice we can learn to walk at the same pace and do it together. There's a powerful energy in doing all of the meditations as one. We have all come here maybe as many individuals, But I invite you to put down your separate self, at least for a week. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to maybe not follow all those conditioned habits of thinking and emotion and thinking and emotion. And see if you can just follow the collective body. Follow the collective energy of the Sangha. That is what we call collective awakening. And it is our only career here in Plum Village. How to generate collective awakening. So thank you for coming to contribute to this with us here. I wish you a wonderful week of practice.